All right, so I now have the Art of Mary Church up for sale on Shopify, and this is what the home page looks like, but down here is a carousel with only a few images, so don't think that this is all the art. You have to click on catalog to get all the art that we have up so far. There's a lot, I think there's about 3 pages worth of art so far, but there will be a lot more as we go through our digital archives, and my brother and I restoring her images, so that they are now available. All of these are currently available as posters so far, but then we're also going to put them to be available on canvas as art prints, which are more expensive, but the colors are better and they last longer than posters do, and framed posters with the black plastic frames. So they will be available in at least 3 formats, maybe a fourth. There's a fourth one called framed canvas. So it'll be a while as we're going through this. We keep finding new images as we go through my digital archives. Because the amazing thing that has made this happen is that I have taken all of these photos with a cell phone camera. And when I published her images in books, they were low res, basically. But we found excellent high-resing software that essentially restored them to exactly what they looked like live. And I don't think a professional photographer with a digital camera could do any better than what the AI has done with these images. So it's pretty impressive. Now, for those of you who don't know who Mary Church was, she was a girlfriend I had between 2016 and 2019 for about 4 years. It was a very stormy, tempestuous, often on-again relationship. And she shot herself through the head in January of 2019, just after she turned 28 years old on December 11th of 2018. And she emailed me and said she had bought herself a birthday present, namely a .38 caliber revolver. And we went back and forth on Gmail. She refused to call me to allow me to talk her out of it. I think I would have had better success if she'd called me. Instead, we went back and forth for about 2 hours while I tried to talk her out of it. Didn't work. All right, so I think this flower goddess painting is one of her best. Now, the other thing, too, with respect to Mary Church, I believe she's going to be a celebrity, an American celebrity. I've written a book called Dead Celebrities, Living Icons, and I've studied art with my book, Art After Metaphysics, so I have the eye of an art critic. There is a personal bias, I suppose, because she was my girlfriend, but at the same time, I am able to get out of that and look objectively at works of art, and I know good stuff when I see it because it's my job. So this is going to be famous stuff. When it hits, it's going to be a big deal. So there's that, and I think of her as one of the preeminent artists of hypermodernity, which is the generation of the millennials, and they are looking for meaning. None of her art involves irony or sarcasm or cynicism. This is an earnest quest. This girl was trying to put together a cosmology that made sense, and I tried my best to help her with that. And the other thing with hypermodernity about her is the channel surfing of the styles. She could draw, paint in any medium: watercolor, charcoal, pastels, pen and ink. She was a mixed media artist, and she could just channel surf styles. That's another characteristic of the art of hypermodernity, in addition to the lack. Hypermodernity is different from postmodernity in that postmodernity makes fun of the meaning-making process. Everything means nothing, and nothing means anything in postmodernity, which is totally wrong as it gets. Everything has meaning. Absolutely everything does. There is not one meaningless thing. I think this is kind of funny right here. Her pussy painting, which is actually, if I can remember, it was painting in a sketchbook. That's kind of a mixed medium of ink. Looks like different kinds of ink that she did there. And so this and the red orgy below it are as far as I've gotten with adding the 2 other media, the framed poster, and it won't print this way with these lines, so don't worry about that. And and the framed poster and the art print canvas. And so this is the one will be on canvas. And I called it the pussy painting. I was almost going to call it but I figured later art critics are just going to refer to it amongst themselves, maybe not on paper, as the pussy painting. That's simply what they'll call it, so might as well name it now. And keep in mind too, though, that these are low prices for this quality, this level of art sophistication. I think this one's funny. See, the lines aren't there. The girl holding the pussy poster, I think that's pretty funny. That goes for $40.50. I'm going to buy one myself. I'm going to put most of her art on the wall behind me here. It'll be good advertising for it. And this one is just incredible. Now, I remember her mother saying that she hated this one after she finished it, and she shoved it under the couch where her mother found it after she was dead. I think it's one of her best. I called it Red Orgy. Now, she never titled any of her work, none whatsoever. She left that up to me. So while she was still alive, I would give titles to her works, and she would go, "Yeah, that's cool." So she would do the images, and then I'd do the words, as I'm still doing, transforming her into a character of American literature called which I call the Motorcycle Girl. Now, it's funny because the real Mary Church was too scared even to drive a car, much less a motorcycle. But when you take a character who is based on someone real and you put it into literature, you got to jazz it up. You got to paint layers of mythology over it, because we prefer the lies, we humans do. We prefer the lie that Christ was born of a virgin and remained celibate all of his life, and never had sex with Mary Magdalene. All lies. 80% of what's in the Gospels is false. I can assure you of that. But we prefer the lies. See, the irony is that the lies are truer because they're mythologized lies. They're truer than the reality. As Nietzsche says in Beyond Good and Evil, we need our lies. Our lies are what make life worth living, as mythology does. So, so that's the story of who Mary was. She joined the 27 Club, more or less, so she has a mythic aura about her because of that, and she had the looks, and she had the talent. She's going to be a superstar. I've studied the lifetimes of dead celebrities in my book, Dead Celebrities, Living Icons, and I know one when I see one. This is going to be a huge event. Buy them while they're still cheap, because as she becomes famous, the prices are going to rise. Now, her main forte was detail. This is atrocity. It was on a large, I think, canvas board, and she could just sit there for hours and hours and hours of intense detail. So I call this one Atrocity, which is pretty much what it looks like. It's essentially the West's junked midden heap of signifiers, that transcendental signifieds that we no longer believe in, such as God, the soul, freedom, immortality, the Kantian ideas of the reason. That's the Western junk heap that she's representing here, though without consciously realizing it. She was a genius. There's no two ways about that. She was also a mystic. I'm in the process of republishing her journals, which are called Earthblood, and they'll be in hardcover as the appendix for the trilogy that I'm writing about her, with her as a fictional character growing up in Phoenix. She was a Southern girl, born in Atlanta, Georgia, and lived in North Carolina and in Florida. But I transferred her to the desert, to Phoenix, where I grew up, and I sort of more or less give her my life story, but also combined with my mother's life story, growing up on an Air Force base under a very patriarchal, paternal father, a rageaholic, and she has to grow up and find her identity separate from him as he commits suicide when his cloning experiment doesn't work. He clones himself, and the kid has all kinds of terrible health issues and psychological issues, because that's the problem with, it's called Every Angel is Terrifying, because we're fucking around with these, what Peter Sloterdijk calls monstrous technologies, and by that he meant genetic engineering, nuclear power, and AI. These are technologies that could potentially destroy life on the planet. So that's why it's called Every Angel is Terrifying, and it's about all three, because it has, at the end of the novel, she goes on a journey to the largest nuclear power plant in the United States is in Phoenix. It's about a half an hour, 45-minute drive to the west of it, Palo Verde Nuclear Power Plant. And she goes there and she finds a dragonfly, and this is true, by the way. She finds a genetically damaged dragonfly that's been damaged by radiation. Half of its wings are missing and its thorax. And that's based on a woman who was a friend of mine and William Irwin Thompson's, Cornelia Hesse-Honegger, who was going around Europe visiting nuclear power plants, and she would find bugs with two heads, flies with two heads, and just concrete evidence. And these are just bugs that are in the radius, that are just in the area of a nuclear power plant. So these things are not, they're monstrous technologies. And the damage to the dragonfly mirrors the damage to the character called Peter, who is the clone of his father, Samuel George. I retained my grandfather. He's based on my grandfather's a rocket scientist. I made him a genetic engineer doing the first cloning experiment in the late 70s. And Samuel George Wagonseller was my grandfather's name, so I changed it to Samuel George Smith, because the daughter, who's based on Mary Church, the daughter calls him a genetismith, just as a little joke that she makes. And so that trilogy, I haven't started the third novel yet, but I will in a few months. I'm still doing research on Mesoamerican civilization, the Aztecs in particular, which we're going to reanimate with all kinds of colorful characters that I've got in mind. And so this is a project that Mary and I are working on. We're collaborating. I'm channeling her. She's in the astral plane. I talked to her for 2 years using a medium off and on. And so she's involved. She's sending me thoughts, ideas, and inspirations for these projects. So it's still a duet. We're still doing a duet. As we like to do, we were at our best when we could behave with each other, get along well enough to collaborate, which was rare. It was mostly stormy this, stormy that, and all kinds of stormy shit. This one's cool. I like this one. It's I call it Forgetting. I'm not sure why. It just seemed like that's what it's doing. She's trying to forget something, and we don't know what, because we've got these. She's surrounded by these, what I call in my book Art After Metaphysics, she's surrounded by semiotic vacancies, which is exactly what Derrida said and what Rothko was doing at the same time that he was articulating in his essay Structure, Sign, and Play on the Discourse of the Human Sciences, when he said, at the West, the core of the West's concept of being right now, there is only emptiness. There is an absent ontological center where we used to have signifiers that were nailed to transcendental signifieds, such as the cross, the Jesus image, and all the Christian angelology and all of those. Those were transcendental signifieds, which I call in my book Art After Metaphysics iconotypes. But during the course of the 19th century, they went down the drain. And once a civilization's metaphysical immune system is damaged, then it spills out onto the physical plane, and you get the world wars. The physical plane, what happens on it is the direct result of what happens in the metaphysical plane. And so postmodernity has this dead flat fucking wrong, that there is no astral plane, that the soul, that's all nonsense. No, it's Christianity's nonsense mostly, but there's that 20% that it did get right. The soul does survive the death of the body. There is some kind of a God being, and there are apparently angel beings as well. So some of it's right, but essentially it's the wrong cosmology, because it condemns nature as fallen, and that gives Christianity the right to commit genocide globally against indigenous populations. That's what it was used for. They were dismissed as dirt worshippers because nature is fallen. It's corrupt, right? There's no sacrality or spirituality in nature. No, I'm afraid that's wrong. That is not correct. It's the other way around. Nature is full. Nature is the bouquet of spirit, the astral realms. And there's a lot of mysticism and astral energies in the artwork of Mary Church. I watched her draw this one, the centaur. when I was living with her in St. Petersburg in 2016, was it, or 2017? I think it was 2016. And she drew this as an illustration to one of my poems in my poetry cycle, These Things We No Longer Are. I wrote a poem about a centaur, a team of archaeologists who unearthed a centaur. And it's the actual skeleton of what appears to have been an actual centaur. So what do? They bury it, which is probably exactly what archaeologists would do if they found such a thing, because it's an anomaly in their paradigm. There were giants on the earth in those days, that kind of myth. And so she loved that poem, and so she illustrated it with this wonderful. I sat on the couch there and watched her use several kinds of pens. So this is all done with pen and ink, and it's absolutely extraordinary. It's not that large. It's about the size of a page out of a sketchbook. So that's a really cool one. I watched her draw another one too that I'm looking for, called Autumn Leaf. I have to find it, which is another illustration to another one of my poems. And that we were at our best when we were able to sit down and collaborate and go back and forth, which we would do every morning when we woke up. As we were eating breakfast, I would go into some vast historical explanation, and she would listen mesmerized and then interject and make funny little comments, which is exactly what I have the character based on her do in the novels. When she's reading her father's notebooks, the father is left brain, she's right brain. She's the humanities, he's the sciences. It's the humanities heckling the sciences, who always think they're right about everything, and they're absolutely not. They're only partially right. What you're getting from science is kind of like Christianity. You're getting about 20% of the truth of the way the cosmos is really structured, namely the physical layer. That's all you're getting. But the physical plane is only one plane amongst a possibly infinite universe of planes that go on and on and on. The more I study about the astral realms, the more bizarre I'm realizing that the universe is. And this girl was tuned in to the astral plane. As you read her journals, Earthblood, every now and then she'll leave her body and she'll astral project, and she'll write about going into an astral plane. She was a mystic, a complete and total mystic, as well as a writer and an artist. There's some great stuff in her journals that's absolutely gorgeous writing. She didn't have as vast as a vocabulary as mine, and so you can sort of tell when we do a duet in the novels. You can tell when the vocabulary gets complicated that it's me. It's a little more simple, but still tuned into the exact same emotional frequency when she's talking. And it's a duet. We can tune into each other's core vibrational frequencies. That's how it is with cosmic twins, which is what I found out that we are. And okay, so let's take a look here. I named this one Marsyas in Denim. This is in her high school sketchbooks, and this is just an explosion. As you're looking through the notebook, sketchbook, there's page after page of hesitant, tentative stuff, and then all of a sudden this creature shows up with all this intense detail. It looks like the myth of Marsyas, who was flayed by Apollo for daring to challenge him to a contest. So I called it, after one of the poems in my book, Marsyas in Denim. And that book is These Things We No Longer Are. Okay, and this thing's funny here. I like this. It was just a piece of paper floating, and so I set it on a black background to give it a background, basically. And what is it? Not sure what to call this. I called it. That's exactly a title she would have given it. It's perfect. Who knows what it is? Something spooky and astral. I like this one too. Junk Heap Sunset was named also after one of the poems in that book that I wrote. Pretty cool stuff. And let's see. And this is possibly my second favorite, I think, of her. And I called it Offering. And I like how, and she looks like she's 15 or 16. She's not. She's 19-ish, 18 or 19. She's in college at this point. She always looked younger than she was. And the butterfly that she's offering without a trace of irony. Notice that. We're not in postmodernity here anymore. This is hypermodernity. There's not a trace of irony. She's looking for meaning. And the butterfly is what Gene Gebser calls a symbol for the soul's death pole, which is exactly what it is. That sums it up. That sums her up in one image. This is a stern, earnest quest for meaning. And then the pussy painting, I think, is really funny. It was in one of her sketchbooks, and I was tempted to call it but I know that later art critics are going to refer to it amongst themselves, if not on paper, as the pussy painting. So might as well name it now. I like this one. This is really funny. With the girl holding it right. That's great. I love it. That's one of the few that we've made available that can be framed or also purchased as an art print on canvas. That's the one I'm going to purchase, actually. I have to buy these. I don't think, hopefully they give you a discount, but they should. And this one is available. These, where is it? 3, or the one painting available in those 3 formats. And it won't print with these white lines there, so don't worry about it. And this one here, which I think is one of her best, which I named Red Orgy. It almost looks, let's see, let's get the, I think this one looks better. The one on canvas. Let's see, they've lost some of it. Here it is, complete. If you order it this size, it'll be the complete image. It does look like an orgy. This woman here, this is a woman with her hands tied behind her back, sucking on a foot. We know what Freud would say there. The Oedipus means swell foot. It's a phallic image. And they seem to be having a pretty good time. It almost reminds me of a painting that would have been done in American art during the Harlem Renaissance of the 1930s. It's very jazzy. It's got a very strong jazz influence on it, both musically and visually. And let's see what else. This one's, I called this one, quoting from Yeats's poem, The Second Coming, rough beast slouching towards Bethlehem to be born. What is this thing? We don't know. It just looks cool. We know that. One of her best. And then it has a twin called Deathbird, which I call Deathbird Rising. I like this one here because she could paint in any style. She was an absolute virtuoso. And this is done in a German expressionist art style. To me, it looks like an old couple, like at the end of Goethe's Faust Part 2, Philemon and Baucis, which Goethe borrowed from Ovid's Metamorphoses. So that's what I named it. That's sort of what it looks like. Reminds me of. Here she is at work at her easel, in action. Looks like probably first year of college. And I know that because she had a bit of a weight problem in high school and didn't get it under control until college, where she lost it. And that's why I know for sure this is not high school, because she's lost all her weight, as she explained to me. Okay, let's see what's the third page. We're still, this is my other favorite. Well, all of them are. This is, I call this Stimmung, which is German for moodiness. That's iconic right there. That's going to be a famous image. I can promise you that right now. This looks like a person you don't trifle with. You don't mess around here. And it's very earnest. There's no irony there. There would be if she were a postmodern artist. She would be making fun of herself. She's not. I like this one here too. Self-portrait brooding, done in watercolor, I think, on a page of a sketchbook, if I remember correctly. She evokes quite a lot with just 2 colors, or maybe 3. There might be a bit of purple in there. Pretty extraordinary. And this one, also another favorite of mine. That's how she looked when we met, when she was 23 and I was 48. And that's extraordinary how she caught that with just a cell phone. All of these are cell phone images. Everything on these pages was either taken with her cell phone or mine, and we've high-resed them with excellent software that look like they were done by a professional photographer. It's amazing now what AI can do. It may be a monstrous technology, but every technology has its upside, that's for sure. And she managed to capture this halo, and so I named it Sun Goddess, which she's evoking the ancient sun goddess that goes back to the goddess, the Sumerian goddess Inanna, who had a pair of lions. And it even goes further back than that. It goes, there are There's a goddess with a pair of lions as a small sculpture from Çatalhöyük, 6500 BC. So it's a very, very ancient archetype, and the sun was originally female, and the moon was male. The moon was meant to represent the phallic rhythm of the rise and fall of civilizations, phallic. The ziggurats go up, they are going to go down again. It's inevitable. Whereas the sun is the Shakti, the eternal power that allows that to happen. So the Indo-Aryans, once they came in and introduced patriarchy, they turned around the symbolism. This is a cool one here too, that she did in high school. It was one of her first excellent paintings there, so I called it Tiny Girl, because she did have low self-esteem. She did not think much of herself at all. She didn't think she was worth loving or liking. Turns out she was totally wrong. This is from a series of 4 paintings that she did of a cosmology that looks like something William Blake would have drawn, maybe. And I called it the Fourth World, as a reference to Rudolf Steiner divides the universe into 4 distinct epochs: the Saturn epoch, and then the Moon epoch, the Sun epoch rather, then the Moon epoch, and then the Earth epoch, and things get physical. The first 3 epochs are entirely on the astral plane, and then things get physical with the Fourth World. But it's the same thing in Hopi cosmology. They have 4 worlds, and they say that we're currently in the 4th world. And as I was studying the history of the Earth for the novel, and I have, it's more or less her and I doing a dance, me sort of as the father and her as the daughter. And in science, we have 4 eons. We have the Hadean, we have the Archean, we have the Proterozoic, and the current world, the Phanerozoic, which began with the Cambrian explosion of animal forms 570 million years ago. And so I have the girl realizing that maybe the Native Americans were more right than the incoming arrogant Christians thought. Way more right, way closer to the scientific point of view, which is arrogant and still thinks it has all the answers. It doesn't. There again, with science, you're getting 20% of the truth. The other 80% is all astral and spiritual. The physical plane is only one plane. There's an infinite number of astral planes. It's infinite. So this has a very astral feel to it. There's another one somewhere, I guess I haven't uploaded it yet, where she has which I've called the third world. Okay, so lots to think about here with this art, and I'm going to keep adding it. There's still a whole bunch more to go through, but these are now, the store is live. I'll put the URL down below, and if you're interested in purchasing these posters, they come in various sizes with varying expenses, and ultimately it'll be all those 3 formats. I may even add a 4th format, the framed canvas. All right, I'll put this online, and you can go there right now, and it's all set up. We made it live last night for purchasing these posters. I haven't purchased any or received any yet. I'm very excited. I'm looking forward to hanging these posters on the wall behind me. Okay, that's it.